Today on Staying Fertile AF, we're going to talk about how Mongolia has raised the status of motherhood and thereby ensured high birth rates. I came across a very interesting X post by More Births, and we're going to go in and read this thread together. So, More Births here has created an X post going into how elevating the status of motherhood solves low birth rates, the extraordinary case of Mongolia. For 68 years, Mongolian leaders have given the Order of Maternal Glory to mothers. This raised the status of motherhood and helped forge a remarkable pronatal culture. Super interesting. This is another thread about how status can promote higher birth rates. Mongolia's pro-motherhood culture stands out on a fertility map. Fertility in Mongolia has consistently been 2 to 3 times higher than neighboring areas in recent years, and it's been increasing over the past 20 years, even as its neighbors have seen birth rates plunge. So that's just saying that, like, despite the rest of the world and despite the rest of Asia, birth rates decreasing, Mongolia seems to have a higher birth rate than all of them. So if we look at the pictures, if I open this, we can see that the birth rates, like China has here 1.18 for China, South Korea here has 1.17. So yeah, we can see that Mongolia clearly has the highest compared to all of its neighbors at 2.64, which is amazing. Like, that's way past the replacement level, which is 2.1 kids per mother. They're doing really well. Let's take a look as to why. Or we can take a look at this one as well. This shows their birth rates in Mongolia. We can see back in 1980, it was at 6.4. That's very high. So it's gone down, but it is steadily increasing. 2.7 is extremely good. It's one of the highest I've seen. Not bad. Let's continue here. It says Mongolia's incomes are comparable to its neighbors. It is urbanized. This is also not a case of religiously driven fertility. Mongolia is primarily Buddhist and non-religious. This is about the status of motherhood. In Mongolia, the president himself gives an award to every mother of 4. So if you have 4 kids, the president comes and gives you an award. That's really cool. Imagine if other countries did kind of like a similar thing. So it says here, Mongolian mothers are awarded the Mother's Glory Medal. That's great. It's kind of a way to show that culturally and economically and governmentally, like, mothers are being supported here and show that they're valuable in society by getting an award from the president. Okay, continues here. Mongolian mothers of 6 are presented with the Order of Glorious Motherhood, first class. Second class if you have 4. So 4 kids, you get second class, and if you have 6 kids, you get the Order of Glorious Motherhood, first class. Amazing. Here, celebrated mothers descend the steps of the state palace in Ulaanbaatar on the red and gold carpet. The statue of Genghis Khan directly behind them. Wow, so they get like a red and gold carpet when they receive this award. The Mongolian president holds a separate ceremony by district in order to be able to give more personal attention to recipients. He goes around to different areas to give this award to people. So that shows how, like, highly they value mothers, how highly they value children in their society. And it doesn't cost Mongolia much to do this for the mothers. There's a cash award too. Okay, so there might be some monetary things here, but it's just $60 for a mother of 6. That's not very much. Clearly, this is a story, motherhood, and status in Mongolian society. So it shows that, like, the president goes and visits the different areas just to be there to personally attend these women and celebrate them. And they get an award and they get a status, like, kind of raise. So that's really cool. So important is this award that Mongolian consulates are even tasked with conferring the award to Mongolian mothers abroad. Here, Mongolian ambassador to the United Nations presents the award to a mother in Geneva. So they're even doing this to citizens abroad. That's awesome because they're still getting recognized. It is a very common thing now to live in different countries and work in different places. So even if you have kids, they're gonna recognize that. So that's really beautiful. Status around motherhood is crucial and underappreciated driver of birth rates. Absolutely. This goes into Johan Kurtz's thread. Status is showing that it might be a motivator for whether you have kids or not. And in our days, like, having kids doesn't add value. Kids kind of actually remove that because it stops you from working harder, which stops you from getting promoted, which stops you from getting more value. So that's quite sad. We have seen this elsewhere by honoring parents, Patriarch Ilya of Georgia created a baby boom, something generous financial incentives elsewhere could not achieve. Yeah, so the country of Georgia, one of the Orthodox religious leaders there, he said that every third child in Georgia born to a family, he would be the godfather of. That's a great incentive to use your status and your power in the community to show that, like, okay, we really appreciate and celebrate you and you deserve this type of reward for having more children. I have another video where I discussed Johann Kurtz and his thread regarding status and birth rates, so check that out if you want. It's a very interesting thread, very interesting points he comes up with. So more births continues here. Status is incredibly important for most people, and we strive for status perhaps more than anything else. Status helps explain the paradox that as societies become richer, fertility usually drops. Yeah, again, saying that, like, the better off we are, the less kids we're having, which is something we're seeing all around the world. Even though absolute well-being has risen, living in a wealthy society offers no increase in relative status. In fact, the status competition of modern life, like education and career, directly compete with family life. In order to gain higher value or higher status in our society these days, or in the West at least, it seems like you need to, like, climb the career ladder, or your education needs to be focused on, and that's what will improve your status. Having children doesn't increase it anymore, or we don't value it as much. This also tracks with how in cultures where parenthood is elevated to high status, such as among religious subgroups like the Amish, Hardy Jews, and traditionalist Catholics, fertility can be much, much higher. Yeah, so it is proven that people who are closer, tight-knit communities, religious ones, they do tend to have more children, but in the West, it's not enough to kind of break even, or it's not exactly at the fertility replacement level either. But people who are in religious tight-knit groups, they do tend to have more children than non-religious people. As well, this helps explain the remarkable fertility of England and Wales during the Victorian times. Queen Victoria, a personification of the era, both inherited and carried forward a culture that conferred high status of motherhood in raising 9 children. Okay, so in the Victorian times, I guess they had a lot more children. Maybe it was, again, because there was close-knit family. It was a virtue game behavior. Women were appreciated if they had more kids. Gross fertility rate, births per woman, England and Wales. So yeah, you can see in the Victorian era, there was a boom in kids, and then it's kind of plummeted. France had fewer kids than those in England and Wales. In Korea, meanwhile, the highest status people are childless, and cultures filled with every status competition but one around parenthood. Korea, as we've seen, has actually the lowest birth rates in the world at 0.72 as of 2023. Johann Kurtz goes into why in the Korean culture people are having fewer children. There's a lot more emphasis on status, both through your etiquette, through what you do, through what you have, through where you work. All these things are very important in the Korean culture. Almost nobody has kids because other things take more importance. The message is that we have to find a way to honor motherhood, like our civilization depends on it. Absolutely. This once again proves that status actually is a motivator. It's a driver in us as human beings. And as long as kids are not valued in that sense, or as long as they don't, uplift your status, then there's no motivation for us to have them because other things are more important. Mongolia helps show the way. Twin sisters both awarded Order of Maternal Glory. Does it say if they had, I guess, so they might have had 6 or 4 kids, but they get awarded this because they both had at least 4 children. Yeah, so this was the post by More Births. Very interesting case of Mongolia. Very interesting to see how they're doing things and making sure that their birth rates stay high. I think a lot of other cultures or countries or governments could actually take this as an inspiration, especially since they're dealing with this crisis. And a lot of people like to throw money at people to incentivize them to have more children. But as we can see here and in Johann Kurtz's post, money doesn't really push it. Money is not enough to encourage people to have children because people don't just have kids for money. And clearly it seems like status plays a big role, whether to have children or not, or climbing the career ladder is more important because that will automatically give you more status. It'll give you more value in our society. I've spent a lot of my youth and adult years in Denmark. Yeah, so if you have 4 or 6 kids in Denmark, you should be either met or rewarded or celebrated by Mette Frederiksen, the Prime Minister, or maybe it could even be like other famous Danish people, like football players. Kasper Schmeichel could come and be like, hey, good job, you had extra kids. Like when they're awarded, they can get like pictures with the Prime Minister or these famous people. They could also get a red carpet, make it special. And small things like this that can, motivate people to have more kids and at the same time elevate their status because they get to meet some people of like high importance, really be valued for the things they're doing, because bringing kids into our society is one of the most important things you can do with your life. And by getting the encouragement through your society and through the government, ensuring that we have more people providing for a prosperous future, we just need to motivate people more. Show that, the system you live in actually appreciates and wants you to have children and encourages you to do this. Do you guys agree with this idea, or do you have any other solutions to boost birth rates? Share your opinions and ideas in the comments below. And don't forget to stay fertile as fuck.